Elena Vasquez walked down the long metal hallway deep under the ground. The lights above her head made a soft humming sound. She had been walking these same halls for 30 years, but today felt different. Today, everything would change. She stopped at a heavy door marked with strange symbols. The door recognized her face and slid open with a quiet hiss. Inside, the war room stretched out like a cave made of screens and blinking lights. Hundreds of people sat at their stations, watching displays that showed ships and planets far away. In space, Elena was the commander of Earth's hidden defense force. Most people in the galaxy thought Earth was dead. They thought humans had killed themselves 500,000 years ago. That was exactly what Elena's people wanted them to think. The big screen in front of her showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked enemy fleets. Blue dots showed human ships that nobody knew existed. There were thousands of blue dots hidden everywhere, watching and waiting. "Report," Elena said to her assistant Marcus. Marcus was a young man with worried eyes. "The Zephyrian fleet is moving toward our solar system. They have 1,200 ships. They plan to burn every planet from the sun to Pluto." Elena nodded. She had been expecting this day for her whole life. Her grandmother had told her it would come. Her great-grandmother before that had said the same thing. For 500,000 years, humans had been getting ready for this moment. Long ago, when humans first traveled to the stars, they met the Kronar. The Kronar were large, mean creatures who liked to destroy other races. They had ships that could blow up entire planets. Humans tried to fight them, but human ships were too weak. Human weapons could not hurt the Kronar ships. So humans made a choice. They could fight and die, or they could hide and learn. They chose to hide. First, they made Earth look dead. They built machines that made the air look poisoned. They created fake ruins on the surface. They made sure that any alien ship that came near would see only a dead world full of radiation and broken cities. Then they went underground. They dug cities deep in the Earth's crust. They built factories and schools and homes miles below the surface. They had children and taught them the truth about the universe. The universe was dangerous and humans needed to be ready. For 500,000 years, humans watched and learned. They saw the Kronar destroy race after race. They watched the Zephyrians take over weak worlds and make slaves of the people. They saw wars that killed billions of innocent beings. During all this time, humans built ships. Not just any ships, but the best ships anyone had ever imagined. They invented new kinds of engines that could travel faster than light without making any noise. They created weapons that could destroy anything. They built armor that could stop any attack. But most important, they learned patience. Elena looked at the screens around her. Each one showed a different part of the galaxy. In the Andromeda sector, Kronar ships were burning a planet full of peaceful farmers. In the Centauri region, Zephyrian troops were loading prisoners onto slave ships. Everywhere she looked, she saw pain and fear. "Commander," said Marcus, "the Zephyrian admiral is sending a message to all ships in our solar system. He says they will start bombing Earth in 3 days." Elena smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Good. That gives us time to get ready." She walked to the center of the room and pressed a red button on a special console. Alarms began to ring all through the underground city. After 500,000 years of waiting, the war was about to begin. All around Earth, hidden bases started to wake up. On the moon's far side, huge doors opened in what looked like rock and dust. Inside were shipyards bigger than any city. On Mars, fake rocks slid away to show weapons that could destroy suns. Near Jupiter, old satellites that had been floating in space for centuries suddenly came to life. Elena spoke into her communication device. "This is Commander Vasquez to all human forces. Operation Dawn is now active. Repeat, Operation Dawn is now active." In underground cities all over Earth, people stopped what they were doing and listened. Children who had learned about this day in school felt excited and scared. Adults who had trained their whole lives for this moment checked their equipment one last time. Old people who remembered the stories their grandparents told them smiled and nodded. The waiting was over. Elena looked up at the big screen again. The red dots showing enemy ships were getting closer to Earth. In 2 days they would arrive and start shooting. They expected to find a dead world with no defenses. Instead, they would find humanity. And humanity had been preparing for this fight for 500,000 years. Marcus, Elena said, send a message to Admiral Chen on the moon base. Tell him to prepare the fleet. Yes, Commander. What about the people in the cities? Should we move them to the deeper shelters? Elena shook her head. No, our children and families will be safe where they are. These tunnels have protected us for 500,000 years. They will protect us for a few more days. She paused and looked around the war room. Every person there had trained for this moment. Every machine had been built for this fight. Every plan had been made to keep humanity alive and free. Besides, Elena said quietly, this will not be a long war. Admiral Chen Nakamura stood in the command center of Luna Base deep inside the moon. Around him, thousands of technicians worked at their stations. Red lights flashed as computers came online after sleeping for decades. The sound of machinery starting up filled the air like thunder. Chen was 150 years old, but he looked like a man of 30. Human science had learned to make people live much longer and stay strong. He had spent his whole long life preparing for this day. Sir, called his aide Lieutenant Kim, all weapon systems are now online. The fleet is ready to launch. Chen nodded and looked at the main display. It showed the inside of the moon, which was not really the moon at all. Most of it was hollow, filled with the largest spaceship factory ever built. Ships hung in the darkness like sleeping giants, waiting to wake up. Each ship was a work of art and science. The humans had not built many ships, but every ship they built was perfect. The smallest fighter was more powerful than most alien battleships. The largest ships could destroy entire fleets by themselves. Chen's own ship, the Retribution, floated in the center of the moon base. It was 2 kilometers long and shaped like a sword. Its hull was made from something the aliens had never seen before, folded space itself. Weapons that could hurt normal metal would pass right through it like air. Begin launch sequence, Chen ordered. All around him, people pressed buttons and spoke into microphones. Deep in the moon, massive doors began to open. They had been hidden for so long that they looked like natural rock formations. Now they slid apart to reveal the truth underneath. The first ships to emerge were scouts. They looked old and broken, like ships that might have been floating in space since humans first left Earth. This was part of the plan. The aliens would see them and think they were just old junk that somehow still worked. They would be very wrong. Captain Sarah Mitchell climbed aboard the Retribution and took her place in the captain's chair. She was young for a ship captain, only 70 years old, but she had been training in virtual reality combat since she was 5. She had fought 10,000 battles in computer simulations. She had never lost even one. All stations report ready, said her first officer commander. Torres Sarah looked at her crew. They were all calm and focused. None of them seemed worried, even though they were about to fight the largest alien fleet ever assembled. This was because they knew something the aliens did not know. Human ships could do things that alien ships could not do. Engineering, Sarah called, activate phase drive. Phase drive online, Captain, came the reply. Sarah smiled. Phase drive was humanity's greatest secret. It let human ships exist in normal space and hyperspace at the same time. This meant they could be in 2 places. At once, they could be shot at and not get hurt. They could appear behind enemy ships without traveling through the space in between. The aliens had never seen anything like it, because they had never imagined it was possible. On Mars, General Rodriguez watched as the fake surface of his planet slid away. For 500,000 years, Mars had looked like a dead, empty world. Under that fake surface was the most powerful fortress ever built. Weapons that looked like mountains turned to point at the sky. Defense shields that could stop asteroid impacts flickered to life. Robot factories that had been quiet for centuries began to make ammunition and repair parts. General, said his communications officer, we're receiving the enemy fleet's approach vector. They'll be in weapon range in 36 hours. Rodriguez nodded. Good, that gives us time to test all systems. Near Jupiter, things that looked like broken space stations and old satellites began to move. They had been floating there for so long that alien maps marked them as space junk. But they were not junk at all. They were human weapon platforms, disguised and waiting. Each platform carried weapons that could crack planets. Their power sources were small artificial suns contained in magnetic bottles. Their targeting computers could track a single ship from 1 billion kilometers away. But the most important thing about human technology was not how powerful it was. It was how smart it was. Every human ship and weapon platform was controlled by an artificial intelligence. These AIs had been learning and growing for 500,000 years. They were so advanced that they were almost alive. They could think faster than any biological brain. They could make decisions in microseconds, and they all hated the aliens who had made humanity hide for so long. Back on Earth, Elena received reports from all the hidden bases. "Commander," said Marcus, "all systems are operational. We have 15,000 ships ready for battle. Mars base reports full combat readiness. Jupiter defense grid is online." Elena felt a mix of pride and sadness. Pride because humanity had built something amazing. Sadness because they had to use it. "What about our secret bases in alien space?" she asked. Marcus checked his screen. "All reporting ready, Commander. We have agents and hidden ships positioned near every major alien world. When you give the signal, we can strike everywhere at once." This was another part of humanity's long plan. While hiding on Earth, they had also been placing people and ships throughout the galaxy. Human agents lived on alien worlds, pretending to be members of other species. Human ships waited in empty space, invisible and patient. The aliens thought they were coming to destroy a dead human world. They did not know that humans were already all around them, waiting to strike. Elena looked at the countdown timer on her screen. 24 hours until the alien fleet arrived at Earth. 24 hours until 500,000 years of preparation would be tested. "Send a message to all human forces," she said. "Tomorrow we stop hiding. Tomorrow we remind the galaxy what humanity really is." All across the solar system and beyond, humans received the message. Some were excited, some were nervous, but all of them were ready. The giants were awakening, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Thextar of the Zephyrian Navy felt confident as his fleet approached the dead solar system. His ships filled space like a metal cloud. 1,200 vessels, from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts. It was the largest fleet ever, assembled by any single species. Thextar was a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms and eyes like black stones. He had conquered 17 different worlds and destroyed 3 entire species. The humans had been gone for 500,000 years, but the Zephyrian Council wanted to make sure their dead worlds could never threaten anyone again. "Admiral," said his communications officer, "we are detecting some activity near the planet called Pluto. It appears to be automated defense systems." Thextar looked at his main screen. Several small dots were moving slowly through space near the edge of the human solar system. They looked like ancient, clunky machines that had somehow started working again. "How many?" he asked. 12 objects, sir. They appear to be very old, probably left over from when the humans still lived." Thextar laughed. 12 old machines against 1,200 modern warships? This will be over quickly. Send the advance squadron to destroy them. Captain Zekmore commanded the advance squadron, 100 of Thextar's best ships. His own vessel, the Destroyer of Worlds, was 5 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could melt mountains. He felt almost insulted that he was being asked to fight ancient human junk. "All ships," he transmitted, "target the human devices and fire at will. Let's finish this quickly and get home." The Zephyrian ships opened fire. Thousands of energy, beams and missiles flew toward the human objects. Captain Zekmore watched his screens expecting to see the old human machines explode. Instead, something impossible happened. The energy beams passed right through the human ships like they were ghosts. The missiles flew toward their targets, then suddenly changed direction and flew back toward the Zephyrian fleet. "What?" Zekmore shouted. "How is this possible?" Before anyone could answer, the human ships began to return fire. Sarah Mitchell sat in the captain's chair of the Retribution, watching the alien attack through her ship's sensors. She was not worried. The Zephyrian weapons could not hurt ships that were partially existing in hyperspace. "All ships," she said calmly into her communication device. "You may return fire." The 12 human ships had been made to look old and weak, but they were actually the most advanced war machines ever built. When they fired back, the results were devastating. Beams of concentrated dark matter shot out from the human ships. These beams did not just blow up the alien vessels. They made the alien ships simply stop existing. The atoms that made up the hulls and crews were scattered across light years of space in microseconds. Captain Zekmore watched in horror as his flagship's screens showed impossible readings. Ship after ship in his squadron was just disappearing. Not exploding, not breaking apart, just vanishing as if they had never been there at all. "Retreat," he screamed. "All ships retreat immediately." But when he tried to turn his ship around, he found human vessels behind him. They had not traveled there through normal space. They had simply appeared, as if they could teleport. "Impossible," Zekmore whispered. "Ships cannot move that fast. The human ships could move that fast because they were not really moving through space at all. They were using their phase drives to slip in and out of normal reality." To the aliens, it looked like magic. Admiral Thextar watched from his command ship as his advanced squadron was completely destroyed. 100 of his best ships gone in less than an hour. The 12 human objects were not even damaged. "Sir," said his science officer, "I'm reading energy signatures I've never seen before. These are not ancient automated systems. Someone is controlling those ships." "That's impossible," Thextar said. "The humans have been dead for 500,000 years." "Sir, I'm detecting more objects. They're decloaking all around us." Thextar looked at his screens in growing fear. Hundreds of new contacts were appearing out of nowhere. Human ships, all of them, and they completely surrounded his fleet. Then the communication channels crackled to life. A human voice, speaking in perfect Zephyrian language, filled every ship in the alien fleet. "I am Captain Sarah Mitchell of the Human Defense Force," the voice said. "You came here to destroy our world. You were mistaken about 2 things. First, our world is not dead. Second, you are not strong enough to destroy anything." Thextar tried to respond, but found that his communication systems were not working. Somehow the humans were broadcasting on his channels, but he could not broadcast back. "For 500,000 years, the human voice continued, you and your allies have conquered and destroyed peaceful species. You have made slaves of billions of beings. You have turned the galaxy into a place of fear and pain. Today that ends." The human ships began to move. They did not attack right away. Instead, they began to demonstrate their capabilities. Some human ships simply vanished and reappeared on the other side of the Zephyrian fleet. Others flew right through alien vessels without causing damage, showing that they could become intangible at will. Still others created gravitational fields that gently pushed the alien ships around like toys. "We could destroy your entire fleet in minutes," Captain Mitchell's voice said. "But we are not like you. We do not enjoy killing. Instead, we will give you a choice." Thextar found his voice system suddenly working again. What do you want?" he asked. "Turn around and go home," Sarah said. "Tell your leaders that humanity has returned. Tell them that the age of conquest is over. Tell them that if they try to harm innocent people again, we will stop them." "And if we refuse?" Thextar asked, though he already knew his fleet could not win this battle. "Then you will learn why we spent 500,000 years preparing for this day." As if to demonstrate, one of the smaller human ships fired a single shot at an asteroid floating nearby. The asteroid, which was 50 kilometers wide, simply ceased to exist. Not vaporized, not broken apart, just gone as if it had never been there. Thextar stared at his screens. His fleet of 1,200 ships suddenly seemed very small and fragile. We will withdraw," he said quietly. "Good choice," Sarah replied. "And Admiral, when you report to your superiors, make sure you tell them this. Humanity is no longer hiding. We are no longer afraid, and we will not allow the galaxy to remain as it is." The Zephyrian fleet began to turn around, moving. away from Earth as quickly as their engines could carry them. Behind them, the human ships watched and waited, ready to follow if needed. In the war room deep beneath Earth, Elena smiled as she watched the alien fleet retreat. The first test was over. Humanity had revealed itself, and the galaxy had just learned that everything they thought they knew was wrong. News of the defeat at Earth spread through the galaxy like wildfire. On Zephyrian Prime, the homeworld of the Zephyrian Concordat, panic filled the government halls. Admiral Thextar stood before the High Council, his forearms shaking as he tried to explain what had happened. "You're telling us," said Council Leader Vextar, "that 12 primitive human ships destroyed 100 of our most advanced vessels?" "They were not primitive," Thextar said. "They were using technology we have never seen. Their ships could become invisible, could pass through solid matter, could appear anywhere they wanted instantly." "Impossible," another council member said. "No species has such technology." "The humans do," Thextar replied, "and that's not the worst part. My science officers detected thousands more human ships throughout our space. They've been watching us for who knows how long." Council. Leader Vextar felt cold fear creeping up his spine. If humans had really been hiding for 500,000 years watching and learning, then they knew every secret the Zephyrians had. They knew every weakness, every military base, every important world. "Contact the Kronar hegemony," Vextar ordered. "We need an alliance. If the humans are really back, we must work together to stop them." But even as he spoke, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Human ships had appeared near every major alien world simultaneously. They were not attacking, just watching, waiting. On Kronar Prime, War Chief Gorthak received the news with rage instead of fear. The Kronar were the species that had first driven humanity into hiding. They were large, violent creatures who lived for war and conquest. "So the weak humans think they can frighten us?" Gorthak roared. "We crushed them once before, we will crush them again." He ordered the entire Kronar war fleet to assemble. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior in the hegemony was called to duty. Within days, the largest military force in galactic history was ready for battle. The Kronar fleet was enormous, over 10,000 ships of all sizes. Massive dreadnoughts that could destroy planets. Fast attack ships that moved like swarms of angry insects. Carrier vessels full of fighters and bombers. Gorthak himself commanded from the bridge of his flagship, the Blood of Worlds. It was the largest ship ever built, 15 kilometers long and armed with enough weapons to sterilize entire solar systems. "Today," he announced to his fleet, "we finish what we started 500,000 years ago. Today, we wipe the human plague from the galaxy forever." The Kronar fleet jumped to hyperspace heading for Earth. They expected to find a small human force guarding one dead world. They were confident that their overwhelming numbers would win the day. They arrived in the Sol system to find it apparently empty. "Where are they?" Gorthak demanded. "Scan everything, find the human ships." For several minutes the Kronar sensors found nothing. Then slowly, human ships began to appear. They decloaked one by one, revealing themselves like ghosts becoming solid. There were not thousands of human ships waiting for them. There were not even hundreds. There were 12. The same 12 ships that had destroyed the Zephyrian advance force. Gorthak laughed so hard that his bridge crew stepped back in alarm. 12 ships? 12 ships against 10,000? The humans have gone insane. But even as he laughed, his science officers were reading energy signatures that made no sense. The 12 human ships were small, but their power outputs were impossible. Each one was generating more energy than a star. Captain Sarah Mitchell sat calmly in her captain's chair aboard the Retribution. Around her, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. They were outnumbered almost 1,000 to 1, but none of them seemed worried. "Communications," Sarah said. "Open a channel to the Kronar fleet." "Channel open, Captain." "This is Captain Mitchell to the Kronar fleet. You have entered human space without permission. You will leave immediately, or you will be removed." Gorthak's laughter echoed across the communication channel. "Removed? By 12 ships? Human, you are either very brave or very stupid." "We'll see," Sarah replied calmly. "Last chance. Leave now." Never, Gorthak roared. All ships attack, destroy them all. The Kronar fleet opened fire. 10,000 ships launched everything they had: energy beams, missiles, plasma torpedoes, gravity bombs. The space around the human ships filled with enough destructive force to crack a moon. When the light and explosions faded, the 12 human ships hung in space, completely undamaged. Impossible, Gorthak whispered. Sarah's voice came over the communication channel again, still calm and polite. Our turn. The human ships returned fire. What happened next would be remembered throughout the galaxy for thousands of years. The 12 human vessels did not just defeat the Kronar fleet. They destroyed it so completely and so quickly that most alien races would refuse to believe the reports. Human weapons fired beams of pure destruction that erased everything they touched. Entire Kronar battleships simply vanished, leaving not even debris behind. Other human ships used gravitational weapons that crushed dozens of enemy vessels at once, compacting them into balls of metal no larger than asteroids. The most terrifying part was how easy it looked. The human ships moved through the Kronar, fleet-like dancers, never colliding, never seeming rushed or panicked. They destroyed targets with casual precision, as if they were not fighting for their lives but simply cleaning up trash. Gorthak watched in horror as his magnificent fleet was turned into nothing. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds were swatted aside like insects. Warriors who had never known defeat died without even scratching their enemy's armor. "Retreat," he screamed. "All ships retreat." But there was nowhere to retreat to. Human ships appeared behind any vessel that tried to run, gently but firmly pushing them back into the battle zone. The Kronar were trapped in a space that had become their graveyard. In less than 30 minutes, 10,000 Kronar ships were reduced to scrap metal and empty space. Only one ship was left intact, Gorthak's flagship. It hung alone in the void, its weapons offline, its engines dead. Sarah Mitchell's voice filled the bridge of the blood of worlds. "War Chief Gorthak, you have a choice. You can die here with your fleet, or you can return to your people and deliver a message." Gorthak, his pride broken and his spirit crushed, could barely speak. What message?" "Tell every species in the galaxy that humanity remembers. We remember every world you burned, every innocent life you took, every species you drove to extinction. We remember, and we have decided that it ends now." "What do you want from us?" Gorthak asked. "Peace," Sarah said simply. "Real peace. No more conquests, no more slavery, no more genocide. The galaxy will learn to live in harmony, or it will learn what happened to your fleet today." Gorthak's ship was released and allowed to limp home. As it disappeared into hyperspace, the human ships began to spread out across the galaxy. On every major alien world, human vessels appeared in orbit. They made no threats and fired no shots. They simply took position and waited, making it clear that they could strike anywhere, anytime. The message was received. After 500,000 years of hiding, humanity had returned to the galaxy, and they had returned as its new masters. Elena Vasquez stood in front of the largest communication array ever built, deep beneath Geneva. Around her, technicians prepared to broadcast a message that would reach every inhabited world in the galaxy simultaneously. This was the moment she had been born for, trained for, and dreaded her entire life. "Commander," said Marcus, "all quantum entanglement networks are synchronized. We can reach every species in the galaxy at once." Elena nodded. For 500,000 years, humanity had been building secret communication networks throughout space. They had quantum transmitters hidden on every major world in every important system. Now, for the first time, they would use this network to speak to everyone at once. "Begin transmission," Elena said. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, belonging to hundreds of different species, every communication device suddenly activated. Television screens, radio transmitters, computer networks, even personal communication devices. All of them displayed the same image: a human woman with gray hair and kind but determined eyes, speaking in a calm, clear voice. She spoke in every language simultaneously, her words automatically translated by advanced human technology. "People of the galaxy," Elena began. "My name is Elena Vasquez, Supreme Commander of the Human Defense Force. Today, we end 500,000 years of silence." On Zephyrian Prime, Council Leader Vextar watched the transmission with growing terror. Around the planet, human ships hung in space like silent threats. "For 500,000 years," Elena continued, "you believed humanity was extinct. You were wrong. We have been here all along, watching, learning, preparing. We have seen your wars, your conquests, your casual destruction of innocent life. We have watched as you turned the galaxy into a place of fear and suffering." On Kronar Prime, the few surviving military leaders listened in stunned silence. Their great fleet was gone, destroyed in minutes by just 12 human ships. "Some of you may wonder why we waited so long to reveal ourselves," Elena said. "The answer is simple. We were not ready to fix what you had broken. The galaxy was ruled by violence and hatred. Those who were strong took what they wanted from those who were weak. Peace was seen as weakness, and mercy was seen as foolishness. But we have been busy during our time in hiding. We have built ships and weapons, yes, but more importantly, we have built something you have forgotten how to create, a just civilization, and now we are ready to share it with you." Elena paused, letting her words sink in across thousands of worlds. "This is not a conquest," she continued. "We have no desire to rule you or take your worlds, but neither will we allow you to continue as you have. The age of galactic warfare is over. The time of genocide and slavery has ended. From this day forward, any species that tries to harm innocent beings will face the consequences." On the planet, Sirion 7th, a world of peaceful farmers who had lived in terror of Kronar raids for centuries, people watched the transmission with tears in their eyes. Could it really be true? Were they finally safe? Elena's image shifted, showing scenes from across the galaxy. Human ships were everywhere, positioned near every major military installation, every slave world, every planet where oppression reigned. "To prove our commitment to this new order," Elena said, "we will begin immediately. All slave worlds will be liberated. All weapons of mass destruction will be disabled. All military forces will be reduced to levels necessary only for planetary defense." As she spoke, human ships throughout the galaxy began to act. On slave worlds, the devices that controlled prisoner populations simply stopped working. Electronic collars fell off. Prison doors opened by themselves. Transport ships carrying slaves found their engines mysteriously failing, forcing them to land on nearby free worlds. On military bases, weapons that could destroy planets suddenly experienced critical system failures. The weapons weren't destroyed. They were simply turned off, their firing mechanisms disabled by human technology that was invisible and unstoppable. War Chief Gorthak, now the broken leader of what remained of the Kronar military, tried to order his forces to resist. He found that his communication systems would not obey him. When he tried to launch fighters to attack human ships, the fighters' engines would not start. When he tried to fire defense weapons, the targeting computers showed only error messages. Elena's voice continued to fill the galaxy. "Some of you will try to resist this new order. You will fail. We have spent 500,000 years learning every detail of your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. We have agents on your worlds, ships in your space, and the ability to disable any weapon you might turn against innocent people." On the planet Altair 9, a Zephyrian slave camp that had existed for 3,000 years, the prisoners looked up in amazement as their chains simply fell away. The guard towers lost power. The walls developed mysterious cracks that made them collapse. Within hours, 50 million beings who had been slaves their entire lives were walking free. "But this message is not only for those who have committed crimes," Elena said, her voice becoming warmer. "To those who have suffered under the old order, we say this: your time of fear is over. No one will enslave you again. No one will destroy your worlds for sport. No one will take your children to fight in wars they did not start." On thousands of worlds, beings who had lived in terror for generations began to hope. Parents hugged their children. knowing they would grow up in a galaxy where peace was possible. We know this change will not be easy, Elena continued. Civilizations built on conquest will need to learn new ways to survive. We will help with this transition. Human technology, human knowledge, human resources, all will be shared freely with those who choose the path of peace. But understand, this clearly, the choice is yours to make. But the consequences of your choice are ours to enforce. Choose peace, and you will prosper. Choose war, and you will face humanity. Elena's image changed one final time, showing the beauty of Earth as it really was. Not the dead world that aliens thought they knew, but a living planet full of cities and forests, oceans and mountains, billions of humans ready to take their place among the stars. The galaxy has been broken for too long, Elena said. Today, we begin to fix it. Today, we start building the civilization that should have existed all along. A civilization based on justice, mercy, and the belief that all thinking beings deserve to live free from fear. This is our promise to you. Humanity stands watch. We will protect the innocent, stop the guilty, and ensure that never again will the strong prey upon the weak. The age of darkness is over. The age of light begins now. The transmission ended, but its effects continued to ripple across the galaxy. On some worlds, celebrations began as freed beings danced in the streets. On others, military leaders frantically tried to contact their fleets, only to find that human technology had quietly taken control of their communication networks. In the war room beneath Earth, Elena sat down for the first time in days. Around her staff monitored reports from across the galaxy. The plan was working. After 500,000 years of preparation, humanity was finally free to build the galaxy they had always dreamed of. Commander, said Marcus, we're receiving surrender offers from 47 different species. They want to negotiate terms for joining the new galactic order. Elena smiled. Good. Schedule meetings with all of them. But remember, we're not accepting surrenders. We're welcoming them to a better future. The reckoning had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. 5 years had passed since humanity revealed itself to the galaxy. Captain Sarah Mitchell walked through the corridors of Unity Station, the massive space facility that now served as the center of galactic government. The station floated in neutral space, built jointly by humans and dozens of alien species working together. The hallways were filled with beings from across the galaxy. Tall blue Zephyrians walked alongside short furry Velians. Former Kronar warriors, now wearing peaceful blue uniforms instead of battle armor, served as security guards protecting species they once would have enslaved. Children of different races played together in the station's parks, learning each other's languages and customs. Sarah smiled as she watched a group of young humans teaching alien children how to play an Earth game called soccer. The alien children were terrible at it, but they were laughing and having fun. 5 years ago, such a scene would have been impossible to imagine. She entered the main council chamber where representatives from every species in the galaxy met to discuss problems and make decisions together. The chamber was enormous, with seats designed for beings of every possible shape and size. At the center sat Elena Vasquez, no longer called Supreme Commander, but simply Elena, the first speaker for Earth. Elena was older now, her hair completely white, but her eyes still held the same determination that had carried humanity through its long hiding. She was listening to a report from Ambassador Keltar, a former Zephyrian military officer who now worked to help his people adapt to the new galaxy. The transition on Zephyrian Prime is going well, Keltar was saying. Our factories that once made weapons of war are now producing farming equipment and medical supplies. Our people are learning to find pride in building rather than destroying. Elena nodded approvingly. And what about the former slave worlds in your sector? All freed. Beings who wish to return to their home worlds have been transported there, Keltar replied. Those who choose to stay on Zephyrian worlds are being given full citizenship and equal rights. It is an adjustment for my people, but they are learning. Sarah took her seat at the council table. As Admiral of the human fleet, she was responsible for keeping the peace throughout the galaxy. It was a job that had become much easier over the past 5 years. The secret was that humans rarely had to use force anymore. After the destruction of the Kronar fleet, word had spread quickly about humanity's power. Most species had chosen cooperation over conflict. Those few who had tried to resist found their weapons mysteriously malfunctioning whenever they tried to use them against innocent people. "Admiral Mitchell," Elena said, recognizing Sarah's arrival, "please give us your security report." Sarah stood and activated a holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. Green lights marked peaceful worlds. Yellow lights showed areas where problems existed but were being resolved. There were very few red lights anymore. "The galaxy remains stable," Sarah reported. "We've had only 3 incidents this month. A group of former Kronar pirates tried to raid a transport convoy in the Outer Rim, but their ship's engines failed before they could attack. A Zephyrian factory owner was caught trying to force his workers to work without pay, but his factory's computers locked him out until he agreed to follow labor laws. And there was a border dispute between the Altarians and the Cedians, but our mediation team helped them reach an agreement." Elena smiled. "Only 3 incidents in an entire month, across a galaxy of trillions of beings. Our ancestors would be proud." The transformation of the galaxy had not been easy. Many species had struggled to adapt to a world without conquest and slavery. Their economies had been built on taking wealth from others rather than creating it themselves. Their governments had been designed for war rather than peace, but humanity had been patient and helpful. Human engineers had redesigned alien factories to make useful products instead of weapons. Human economists had taught alien leaders how to build prosperity through trade and cooperation. Human teachers had worked with alien children, helping them learn that there were better ways to solve problems than violence. Most importantly, humans had kept their promise. They had not tried to rule the galaxy or impose their own culture on others. They had simply made it impossible for anyone to harm innocent beings, then helped everyone figure out how to live better lives. The Kronar had been the most difficult to change. Their entire culture had been based on strength and conquest. When those options were taken away, many Kronar had fallen into despair. But slowly, with human help, they had discovered new sources of pride. Kronar strength that had once been used to destroy was now used to build. Former warriors became construction workers, miners, and rescue workers. They found that saving lives felt better than taking them. "There is other good news," said Dr. Yakhtar, a Velian scientist who served as the galaxy's chief medical officer. "The new medical technologies that humans have shared with us have eliminated 17 different diseases across 12 species. Life expectancy on most worlds has increased by 30%. And education levels continue to rise," added Minister Nelsar, a Cedian who oversaw galactic schools. "Children across the galaxy are learning faster and better than ever before. We estimate that within 1 generation, illiteracy will be completely eliminated." Elena listened to the reports with satisfaction. This was the galaxy she had dreamed of during all those long years underground on Earth. A place where beings worked together instead of fighting each other. Where children could grow up without fear, where every species could contribute their unique talents to the greater good. "Admiral Mitchell," Elena said, "how is our exploration program progressing?" Sarah's expression became excited. "Very well. Now that we don't have to spend resources on war, we've been able to launch exploration missions to distant galaxies. We've discovered 3 new galaxies with intelligent life, and we've made peaceful contact with 2 of them. The 3rd is still under study." This was another gift that peace had brought to the galaxy. With their resources no longer devoted to weapons and conquest, the species of the galaxy had been able to achieve things they had only dreamed of before. Faster-than-light travel had improved dramatically. Scientific research had advanced by centuries in just 5 years. Art, music, and literature flourished as beings found joy in creation rather than destruction. Elena stood and walked to the great window that looked out into space. Beyond the station, she could see ships from dozens of different worlds all working together. Human vessels served alongside alien craft, their crews mixed with beings from across the galaxy. "My friends," Elena said to the assembled council, 5 years ago, humanity ended its long hiding and revealed itself to the galaxy. We did not know if our plan would work. We did not know if beings who had fought each other for millennia could learn to live in peace. She turned back to face the council. Today we have our answer. The galaxy has chosen peace. Not because it was forced upon you, but because you discovered that peace is better than war. Cooperation is better than conquest. Building is better than destroying. The council members, beings who had once been enemies, nodded in agreement. They had learned these lessons not through human preaching, but through their own experience. But our work is not finished, Elena continued. There are still injustices to correct, still suffering to end, still minds to change. Humanity made a promise to the galaxy 5 years ago. We promised to stand watch, to protect the innocent, and to ensure that the strong do not prey upon the weak. That promise has no expiration date. Sarah looked around the council chamber at faces that represented hundreds of different species. Some were still learning to work together. Some still struggled with the changes. But all of them were trying, and that was enough. The age of darkness is truly over, Elena said. The age of light has begun, and together we will make sure it never ends. Outside the station, human ships patrolled the space lanes, ensuring safe passage for all. On worlds across the galaxy, children played in peace. In laboratories and universities, scientists and scholars worked together to push the boundaries of knowledge. In markets and factories, beings traded and worked in cooperation instead of competition. The galaxy had been broken for so long that most beings had forgotten what it felt like to live without fear. Now they were remembering. And with humanity, standing watch they would never have to forget again. The long night was over, the new dawn had begun, and the stars themselves seemed to shine brighter for it.